Borough Hall installed as soon as possible, assuming that.
Any other discussion? Would you like to restate your motion there, Perry?
I can read again. I just have to remember to interject this soon again. But I'll change it to Gerard's with all haste. I move that all other action related to the purchase and installation of surveillance cameras at the police department and at Borough Hall, and the proposed integration of the surveillance network with the Council Rock School District, be suspended until the newly constituted police committee reviews with due haste the matter and makes recommendations to the council.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? I don't think so.
No.
Robert's rules.
Pardon? Vote's been taken.
Hasn't been completed.
Hasn't been completed, has, it has been.
I didn't hear I only heard the ayes, I didn't hear anything else. What's the result of the vote?
Wait a minute, we're not sure
It's
yet.
mid-vote.
It's mid-vote.
We're in
It's
midstream.
mid-vote.
Okay.
Pardon?
Why was there an interruption?
Public wanted to
Public,
comment.
public wants to be heard.
Motion pending, so-
Yeah, the motion is pending. Again, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Are there opposed?
I think public should be heard.
Is that a no vote?
It's a no vote.
Thank you.
All right, so that was four and
5-1, isn't it?
Five?
No as well.
you were no as well, so it was 4-2.
I guess my question was, we're not having public to be heard before the vote. We will have them after.
Public will be heard at the end of the meeting.
It's 4-2.
Okay.
You may want to have the public be heard on this.
Absolutely.
Want the public to be heard? All right. All right. Briefly, public to be heard on this comment, on this motion only.
I'm sorry, Patty Levy. I'll be very brief. What's the procedure? Because I thought public had to be heard when there was a vote. So I guess I want procedure. What's the appropriate procedure?
We have a
I know that we don't have a solicitor this evening, so Mike,
No,
take
no.
over.
That's well above my pay grade tonight.
No, but isn't what policy and procedure are we following?
Hypothetically,
No, not hypothetically.
no, seriously,
Legally.
the public comment portion on the agenda is a time. Otherwise, it's strictly within the discretion of the president or
But when
or
you're
the
calling a
chair.
vote,
Especially when you're calling a vote, because that's the order. That's the business of council. So that's it's not.
so it's at the discretion.
It is, and that can be entertained, particularly if it's considered to be helpful in terms of an understanding. But save for that, the business of the council is a discussion and a vote, and once the motion and second is made, that's really the time for the action to be taken. If there's going to be any kind of consideration prior to the vote, the chair would do it.
But based on past policy and procedure, wouldn't it be normal to expect that public would be heard?
You know, I think and Julie's new council president, every person running a meeting is going to do it a little differently. Some have no rules, and some will have rules, so I'll defer to our new council president on that. But, you know, the opportunity for public to be heard is a little later in the agenda on this one.
Okay.
Of
But
course, it will
Just
be.
so you know that, everyone's anticipating that a certain policy and procedure been followed, and there's been a standard set from previous council, not just past previous council, but for years, that public was always heard. So I guess it's not unrealistic for everyone to expect that you would be willing to entertain it.
You know, it's a fair point that people get used to things. So when changes occur, it's good for everybody to have those ground rules, and maybe it's a good.
Was that policy set prior to the meeting?
Obviously not.
Okay.
So
All right.
So
Just
this is the
yeah.
first chance we all have to sit as a council and go forward. You heard my comments about how resolutions are numbered. I mean,
I agree with you.
how boring is that? So, that was just something, my suggestion to consider, and certainly rules like you're talking about are ones that we may consider and the president may want to make some recommendations to us about, so and also we know what the limits are and what the degree of participation is we can expect.
And I guess just like you had recommended the way that resolutions are numbered, probably I think the public would appreciate that their comments at least would be entertained at the point that you're hearing them.
Fair point.
So that, it's
And
everyone's equal.
you've made
Because
that
at the
point.
end of the meeting, it's not going to be as important as it is at this moment. And it's not the fact, as long as there's a policy established prior to the meeting so everyone's on the same game field.
And that's why you spoke up, and we're glad you did.
Well,
Good evening, Paul Salter, 148 North Elm. Mike, I was always under the assumption that you used Robert's Rules of Order at a public meeting. I believe the township's always done that, and I had assumed that the borough had too. Isn't that always the case? You're a
Yeah.
solicitor.
I'm
No,
going to
I'm
answer
not.
that one. I'm
Go
going to
ahead.
answer that one. I
Yeah.
will let you know that the previous council did not select a rules of order. That is something that this council needs to look into as well. It is actually on my list of items to be looked at very shortly in the next few meetings to establish bylaws and rules of order for the council going forward.
This date doesn't specify, Julia, what
Nope.
you're supposed to do,
Nope,
and the
nope.
second...
The council votes on what they're going to be using for rules of order.
Very good. Thank you.
Sure.
Charles Schwartz, Washington Avenue, Newtown. Perry, in regards to your motion, and if I remember correctly, the way the motion was presented at the December meeting, that there were three separate motions, one for the parks, one for the streets, or one for the borough hall and one for the police department. So the action that was taken was divided into three separate entities unto itself as far as motions. So therefore, I think the resolution that you're proposing, or the motion that you're proposing in regards to absolving away with all of the portion of the camera issue, is kind of overselling the issue, because I think if you look at the first two that were presented in regards to doing away with the cameras in the parks and on the streets and combining it with Council Rock, that's the one that I think you're aiming for. But in regards to what Gerard said about putting it in Borough Hall and in the police department, they were both separate motions. So I think you do not need to abolish them all in order to get back to the two that, to Gerard's point, need to be done. But just looking at it from my side and from being at the meeting, that was the way I heard it, and I think that's the way Rand proposed it, so that if there was any question in regards to that being done, it would be done such that you could nitpick each one and either approve them or take them out. Thank you.
Shall I respond?
No,
Okay.
not required.
It was really your call on whether we're having a de facto public comment at this point or not.
I think the issue is that you've divided this into two things. The first motion, which we did pass, was to reverse the motion regarding specifically the camera in Linton Park. And the second motion that is currently on the floor, correct me if I'm wrong, is suspending action regarding the other locations of cameras and relationships with Council Rock School District until the new police committee has an opportunity to make recommendations to council about how that might be brought about. Am I correct?
Correct.
Okay, so your division of those motions, and we are handicapped to a certain extent because we don't have the minutes from that meeting before us yet to be able to look at those motions that were previously made to answer Corky's question. So the motion that is on the floor at the moment is your second motion. Pardon? It's done.
The nays didn't say nay.
The nays haven't voted?
Oh, you did?
You
Okay.
did? Okay. All right. So the second motion passed.